Hello and welcome to another episode of All Angles. I'm Giovanni Dennis sitting in for Dion Jackson Miller. She's back and will be ready for play next week. Tonight, we're talking the state of play of football in Jamaica, the men's program, the contentious issues between the senior Reggae Girls and the Jamaica Football Federation. All this against the background of an impending leadership election this Sunday, January 14. We have in studio former national under-17 coach from 2013 to 2017. He's also a former technical director of the Turks and Caicos Football Association, a current football administrator, Andrew Edwards, sports commentator Oral Tracy, who calls himself the Maverick, and sports journalists Karen Madden in studio, and on Zoom, Damian Gordon, who is overseas to give us his perspective from the diaspora. But first, in 4 days, delegates of the Jamaica Football Federation will vote to elect a new president and executive. Today, we spoke with incumbent Michael Ricketts and his challenger, current Vice President Raymond Anderson. But first, here's Michael Ricketts. I spoke with him at the Wembley Centre of Excellence in Vere, Clarendon, moments after he launched his manifesto this afternoon. How exactly do you plan to restructure?
Well, I mean, we would have shared our manifesto in two halves: our achievements and the restructuring second half. Of course, we will have to make changes. We will look at specifically administration, coaching, refereeing, and the technical aspect. Hall Grimson would have already made an impact. And when we went for Hall Grimson, it was with one sole intention: to get us to the World Cup in 2026. Raymond Grant will come on as a vice president with responsibility for administration. And we know that we have had shortcomings in this regard. So he will be tasked with the responsibility of probably restructuring the entire administrative arm of the JFF. Speed, of course, will bring his wealth of knowledge to technical. We certainly will make adjustments in that regard. From a fiscal perspective, and we have a lot to gloat about in this regard, because we inherited a JFF that was close to $300 million in the red. We would have owed a lot of that money to the tax department. We have been able to clear most of the principals, and we are now in possession of a tax compliance certificate, something that we have not had for more than a decade.
You mentioned Hall Grimson's role and the sole objective of Hall Grimson. The Reggae Boyz ended 2023 ranked 55 by FIFA, up from 56th, 58th in July, and 63 before that. Even being ranked number one in the Caribbean, there's still a lot of work to do, as we're 6th in CONCACAF. What's your goal for the Reggae Boyz?
Well, absolutely. There's no question about that, because we were ranked some time ago in the 40s. We need to get back even better than that. We're looking for a ranking of close to 25. But like you said, we have some work to do. We have done very well at the Nations League. We're into the semifinals. I think we'll play the US 21st of March. That could propel us way up on the ranking, the FIFA ranking. We need to beat the US. We need to get to the final. We need to win the Nations League. Having qualified for the Copa America, that certainly would have positive implications on our rankings and certainly on the mindset of those who follow the sport. So these are some of the things that we need to pay serious attention to. And we won't rest on our laurels, because we do have some work to do. But the big picture is getting to the World Cup in 2026.
And what will it take for the Reggae Boyz to make another World Cup?
Loyalty, commitment, a strong technical program, and a coach that manages the players.
Can't ignore it. Major issue, women's football, and some of the concerns happening right now. Firstly, what was your reaction to news that Cedella Marley had decided to part ways with the JFF?
Disappointing, to say the least. I mean, she and I, we do have an excellent relationship. we would have lost tremendous support when Sidela would have walked away. But like she did say to me, she's only a phone call away. So we will certainly talk later on and see what transpires.
Had you anticipated that?
I know she was a bit dissatisfied with what would have happened with the girls, but not really. But you know what happens? Still have a relationship with her, and she will still make herself available for any discussion. So I'm pretty certain we'll talk later on.
More than 2.5 million US dollars in investments from 2014 up until I think 2022 from the Marlies, essentially overall in terms of their support to local football. Isn't it a real blow to women's football in Jamaica?
Without question, it is. But the onus now is on the JFF to find someone who can pump that kind of funding into a women's program.
In her
and we're active in the marketplace, I can tell you.
In her statement after the World Cup, we were under the impression that, well, she said that she was under the impression that we were all committed to working together to build on the success from the World Cup. However, the ever-widening rift between the JFF and the team is very alarming. Numerous overtures to each of you to voice my concern and try to assist with a resolution continue to be met with a non-committal generic response, was what she said. And she also said that she believes the Federation is neither receptive nor interested in her current manner of support, as the JFF treated its highest profile supporter disrespectfully.
No, I would never ever agree with any of those comments, because there was a rift and the JFF tried. The JFF would have had a multiplicity of meetings, and most times the girls were adamant, and even some of the accusations, and we have to call them accusations because they were never authentic.
Like what?
Like when they repeatedly said that they weren't paid, and we keep asking them, who do we owe? Which one of the players have not been paid? And up to now, we have not gotten a response. It was difficult to compute the numbers because as the contract was constructed, some players who come off the bench will be paid differently from those who start, from those who played for 3/4 of the game. So it was challenging to compute the numbers. So we were asking them to help us, tell us who are the players that have not been paid, who would have been overpaid. Up to now, we have not got a response. But going forward, we want to embrace our players. We will never entertain a fight with neither the Marlies nor any national unit. So we are intent on restructuring and, of course, repairing that relationship.
There was a feeling that she was trying to take over the women's program in Jamaica, like she wanted to run things. In fact, that was a comment that was made once. Did you have any difficulties with Miss Marley and how she related to the team?
Well, I mean, persons would say, and that's what perception is about. A lot of persons would know the details, but she was very close to the girls, and she was very, very kind to these girls. She was very intimate with these girls. So she had a passion. So most times, even when they were wrong, she would still embrace them. And I understand that, because even as a parent, sometimes you are overprotective with your kids, and when they do wrong, you still try to embrace them. But she's been good to us, she's been good to the program, and she will forever be a friend and an ally of mine.
Well, you mentioned earlier that there are some areas that you've fallen down in over the course of your tenureship so far. Do you think it's an indictment on your leadership that the JFF could keep Sedela Marley on board?
No, I mean, we always would lose sponsors. We gain and we lose sponsors, and that's how life is. For whatever reason, sponsors will probably want to shift focus. Sponsors would probably think that they have had enough for whatever reasons. So, I mean, if a sponsor, and let's call her a sponsor now for the purpose of this interview, if she thinks that, well, I've had enough, I mean, I've invested heavily, then there's nothing we can do. But we want to ensure that it is indelibly etched in the mind of every person was an interest in women's football, that Sidela Marley has contributed significantly to the growth of women's football.
In terms of the senior players now and the recent Women's Gold Cup and some of them pulling out, still lingering issues with concerns coming from the World Cup, they're saying they're feeling they're being disrespected. Why hasn't the JFF been able, you think, to settle the current dispute or the impasse, if you will, with the Reggae Girls?
When players decide that you're not playing for your country, it's an indictment on your commitment and your loyalty. And I don't think that they should have done that. But at the same time, if they would have chosen to do so, it is incumbent on us to have these matters settled. But it's a process, and we're working on it, and I'm pretty certain that we'll have it corrected in due time.
In your estimation, what have the girls done wrong, you think, some of the Reggae girls who have been...
I don't think they have shown enough respect for the JFF, and a number of them still are not maybe cognizant of the fact that it's a JFF's program that would have made them into whom they are. A number of them still don't show appreciation to their parish programs, to their little under 13 coach. A number of them don't even seem to remember that it's football that would have made me who I am. And if they would just think again and say, let me show some regard and some respect and some thanks to a JFF that would have provided me an opportunity, then probably the relationship would be different.
From your perspective, what has the JFF done wrong?
Well, the JFF would certainly, and like I've said, we're not infallible. So finances and the availability or the unavailability of funding certainly would cause us some pain.
So the first 15 minutes of play has been completed. Michael Ricketts there dominating that segment in the opposition's half. Of course, you can participate throughout the program, 876-381-0072. Our hashtag is TVJ All Angles. Stay with us. When we come back, we hear from challenger Raymond Anderson.